Now, the Assyrian National Council of Australia.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the committee for the opportunity to appear today. I appear on behalf of the Assyrian National Council Australia, ANCA, the peak representative body for the Assyrian community in Australia. ANCA advocates for the cultural, economic and political rights of Assyrians in Australia and in our ancestral homelands across northern Iraq, northwestern Iran, southeastern Turkey and northeastern Syria. We engage with all levels of governments to ensure that the concerns of Assyrian Australians are reflected in public policy. My evidence is provided in the context of this committee's review of the listing of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, as a state sponsor of terrorism. Our submission makes two principal points. First, Australia should maintain the listing of the IRGC as a state sponsor of terrorism. Second, while the listing is necessary, Australia's response must extend beyond designation to addressing the broader operational and proxy networks associated with the IRGC and its affiliated branches. Turning to the first point, the IRGC is not merely a conventional branch of Iran's armed forces. It is an ideologically driven security and expeditionary institution with a well-established record of financing, training, and directing non-state armed actors beyond Iran's borders. Under Section 110 of the Criminal Code, an entity may be specified as a state sponsor of terrorism where it is a foreign state entity and has directly or indirectly engaged in, assisted, fostered, or advocated the doing of a terrorist act targeted at Australia. The IRGC is established under the Constitution of the Islamic Republic of Iran and has previously been recognized by the Attorney General's Department as a foreign state entity for the purpose of this legislation. The IRGC now extends beyond the Middle East and into Australia. This is reflected in attacks linked to Iranian state-aligned networks, including the attack on Lewis Continental Kitchen in Sydney, as well as the Adass Israel Synagogue in Melbourne. These incidents demonstrate that hostile activity associated with the Iranian regime can manifest on Australian soil. In Iraq and Syria, the IRGC has cultivated and supported aligned militias, providing weapons, funding, and operational guidance. These networks demonstrate a pattern of conduct consistent with fostering and supporting terrorist activity. The capacity for such networks to operate transnationally underscores why Australia cannot treat this as a distant issue. Maintaining the listing is therefore essential to uphold the integrity of Australia's counter-terrorism framework and to align with key international partners. However, listing alone is insufficient. Authorities must ensure that associated entities, facilitators, and financial channels operating within Australia are subject to appropriate scrutiny under existing legal mechanisms. I now turn to the Australian Assyrian community impact. The Assyrian community in Australia has experienced interference linked to entities aligned with or influenced by the ideological apparatus of the Iranian regime. In 2019, Australian representatives of the Assyrian Universal Alliance attended a conference in Israel focused on the revival of the Assyrian language. In 2020, an Iranian news outlet published an article condemning these Australian residents, accusing them of collaborating with the Zionist regime and declaring their dismissal from leadership roles. The language used reflected hostile ideological narratives associated with the Iranian state. The targeting of Australian citizens in foreign political media caused reputational harm and raised safety concerns within the community. The matter escalated into proceedings before the Supreme Court of New South Wales, culminating in consent orders in March 2021, requiring changes to organisational control and restrictions on the use of the term Assyrian Universal Alliance. Judicial intervention was required to stabilise governance arrangements in Australia. The Australian body was later formally severed ties with its Iranian counterparts and restructured independently as the Assyrian National Council Australia to safeguard its autonomy. This demonstrates how foreign political narratives aligned with the Iranian regime can be projected into Australian civil society, creating governance disruption and intimidation dynamics. It underscores the importance of vigilance regarding foreign interference risks. In conclusion, the IRGC satisfies the statutory criteria under the Criminal Code. It is a foreign state entity, and it has engaged in conduct that supports and fosters terrorist activity. Its activities abroad, combined with interference affecting Australian communities, demonstrates that this is not theoretical. Maintaining the listing is necessary to protect Australia's national security, uphold the integrity of our legal framework, and safeguard vulnerable communities. For these reasons, we respectfully urge the committee to recommend that the listing of the IRGC as a state sponsor of terrorism be maintained, and that Australia continue strengthening oversight of associated networks. I thank the Chair and the committee for your time.